Hello and welcome to the Best Life Podcast, where we here at Altra Federal Credit Union are helping you live your best life. I'm your host, Tony Byer. Thank you so much for tuning in. And this is going to be the first podcast of 2025 talking about a very, very important topic, and that is credit, and talking about maybe some of the misconceptions and myths that come along with credit. So to help us dive into that and help us correct some of those myths and also improve our credit worthiness, we are speaking with AVP of Consumer Lending, Brandon Hougom, here at Altra Federal Credit Union. Welcome to the podcast, Brandon.
Thanks for having me, Tony.
Yeah, so, credit is your whole world, right? And I'm sure over the years, I know that in my work, talking about financial education, I've encountered, some different myths or different interpretations, I guess, of credit. And I'm sure you've heard similar instances of myths and things like that we wanted to take time to correct. So I know that one of them that I've heard quite a bit is that you have to carry some sort of balance. It can be small on a credit card or something like that, but you should be carrying a balance on your credit card from month to month. Talk about that a little bit, Brandon, and why is that just simply incorrect?
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people have heard and a lot of people think. And like you said, just simply not true. While it's good to use your credit card regularly to make sure it stays active, because part of your credit score is your credit duration, the time of how long something has been open. So you want to keep those cards active, especially the ones you've had for a longer period of time. So the balance itself isn't important, but what you want to have is just that continued use. So even if it's to use the card to buy a pack of gum every month, just to keep it active and then pay it off in full, that's going to help your score more than actually carrying a balance.
Sure. And if you're able to pay it off in full on time every month, you pay nothing in interest and you reap all the benefits of that card as well. And it's kind of funny you said a pack of gum. That's pretty much the same thing that I always say. Just charge something small, a pack of gum. I don't know why we always default to a pack of gum, but it's right there by the cash register. So another one talking about credit, people online, doing research on different platforms and things like that. They might get a credit score, whether it be from one of the credit bureaus or they get it from let's say their credit card, or they sign up for a service. Now, is what they're going to see online the same as possibly what we're seeing here at a financial institution?
Quite likely the answer to that is no. There are many different credit models out there, many of which are from FICO, which is I think what most people are used to, but there are also other credit models such as Vantage Score that are starting to use more trending data to help predict not only where credit is right now, but where it might be 6 to 12 months in the future. Okay. So what Credit Karma or other platforms like that are using are not necessarily the same as what we're using here at Altra.
Okay. But they can give you some sort of an idea, but it's typically not going to be, exactly the same. We're working with a lot of different credit scores and a lot of different factors, right?
Right. They're probably not going to be exact, but they also shouldn't have huge discrepancy. So it's good to at least give you an idea of where you might be, but it's, again, not going to be the exact number.
Sure. But it's always good to go online and, do that research. And, the more that you know, the better decisions that you can make here as well. And talking about something, if it is a good decision, maybe we get pre-approved offers in the mail or something like that. If I get an offer for a new credit card, should I always jump on that? Should I always fill out an application and apply for it? Because you need a lot of credit for a good credit score, right, Brandon?
Not quite. I know. So you don't want to jump on every offer. There's not a magic number. It's probably good to have more than one credit card, but you don't want to get to the point where you have a ton of them open. Sure. Part of the reason for that is in the short term, the number of inquiries you have and the number of new accounts that you open is actually going to hurt your score. So you'll rebuild that over time as you make on-time payments and as your duration of your credit increases. But in the short term, that's not a great idea. And then the more cards that you open, the more hits to your credit score as well.
Sure. And those inquiries, if you have a lot of them in a short period of time, that can hurt your credit standing too. So you're saying I shouldn't go to the mall or what's left of it. And every store is probably going to ask me, would you like to save 20% today by opening up a store card? And I say, yes, I would. That sounds great. I shouldn't do that.
Right.
Okay.
Now there are some instances, maybe it's a good idea. Maybe the offer is good enough, or maybe right now you only have one credit card, so having a second or maybe a third isn't going to hurt you too much. But in general, no.
Yeah. Again, with those cards, pay them off in full on time. So talking about opening cards, we just talked about that. What about closing a credit card? Let's say I've got a credit card that has a zero balance. I haven't used it in a while. Should I close it?
So that's going to depend on a couple of things. So I've mentioned duration a couple times already. And so that's going to play into here too. So if you have had the card open for a short period of time, then there's going to be less impact in a negative sense to your credit if you close that card. But if it's a card you've had open for 10, 15 plus years, those are the cards that you really don't want to close. As long as you have the card paid off, the balance of zero, you're not going to be affected by the interest. And so there's no negatives to continuing to keep that card open. Now, if you're someone that has a lot of credit cards open and are looking to just drop that number to a lower level, maybe somewhere in the 4 to 5 range, then it doesn't hurt as much if you're going to close a card or two since you already have additional ones open. But again, it's better to close those cards you've had for a shorter period of time.
Okay, that makes sense with the length of your credit history. And if having a card with a zero balance can tempt you to spend more, it might not be a bad idea to close it. But yeah, if you're able and manage it to keep it open as well. And like you said, charge a pack of gum every once in a while and pay it off in full and keep that card active as well. So talking about credit reports, I know that we can get our credit reports from annualcreditreport.com. We'll have that address in the show notes. But checking my credit report, you mentioned inquiries. Is that going to hurt my credit or credit score or credit standing if I'm checking my own credit report?
Right. So no, if you're using the free credit report website, or if you're using platforms like Credit Karma, they're doing what they call a soft inquiry. That is not affecting your credit. What is affecting your credit is a hard inquiry, and that is what is happening when you are taking out a new loan or opening a new credit card.
Okay, good to know. And it is a responsible thing to do. Checking your credit report, making sure what's on there is yours and there's no mistakes on there, and what shouldn't be on there isn't on there as well. And talking about credit reports, and I know this is something that we run into in some of the states that we operate in, our community property states. So do married couples, do they only have one credit report? Do they have a single score? Is that shared by both in a marriage?
No, what you'll see is often married couples will have similar credit scores because they tend to have a lot of the same trade lines. They'll have a lot of joint loans or joint credit cards. But credit score and credit report will look different and be different because they may also have individual trade lines, individual credit cards, and they may have had longer time in file. So again, going back to that duration, if they have trade lines that have longer duration, that may help improve their credit score and cause a difference in the two scores.
Sure. And when we're talking about trade lines, we're talking basically credit accounts is
Right.
is what that is. Yeah. But in the biz, we call them trades. When it comes to other types of cards, a debit card is pretty common, connected to a checking account or transaction account, or prepaid cards. I mean, they have a Visa logo on them or MasterCard or whatever. Do using those help your credit at all?
No, they don't, unfortunately. They are not considered loans or lines of credit or anything like that. They are not reported to the 3 credit bureaus, so they will not appear on your credit report and will have no impact on your credit score.
Okay, good to know there. But yeah, that's your money. So credit is somebody else's money. You're paying it back. Those 2 cards that we mentioned, that's your money. So yeah, it's not credit at all. And let's say our credit's not great, maybe keeping us up at night, and we see commercials saying, we can raise your score 100 points overnight or something like that. Is that possible? Are you able to fix your credit overnight, by utilizing some of these services?
Yeah, absolutely not. It can take 1 to 2 years or longer to really boost up your credit. If you're, say, sitting in the 500 credit score range and looking to try and get to 700 or more into that stronger credit tiers, it could take quite a long time. Unfortunately, it takes a lot longer for your score to go up than it does to come down.
Sure, that makes sense. And with those, they might be doing what you can already do for free, bombarding the credit bureaus with disputes and things like that. And those are things that you can do yourself for free. And I know that, if something is legit on a credit report, there's really no way to remove it if it is real. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned credit scores going up. I mean, let's say their credit isn't that great. Is their credit always going to be bad once it goes bad?
No, not at all.
Good.
Like I said, it's going to take a while, quite a while in some cases, to rebuild that credit. But it's really just one step at a time, starting to make your payments on time and continuing to do so. And over time, your score will start to improve. And if you have any older, derogatory or poor credit history, that will start to fall off after a period of time.
Okay, that's good to know that their credit's not great. It can improve. It can get better with the passage of time, like you mentioned, and then also on-time payments, trying to keep balances low, and not doing the whole mall scenario that I mentioned and opening up a whole bunch of credit in a very, very short period of time. So talking about debt, when it comes to a credit score, is all debt created equal, Brandon?
No, it's not. So different types of debt, whether it's revolvings like a credit card or a line of credit versus an installment loan, will affect your credit a little bit differently. Probably getting tired of hearing the word duration, but again, that comes into play here. If you take a short-term personal loan in that 6 to 12 month range, that isn't going to help your credit score as much as having a longer term mortgage or a longer term vehicle loan or a credit card that's going to stay out and build positive payment history on your credit report.
Okay. So these are some of the myths that we hear, and just wanted to take some time, here early in 2025 to correct those and get people on the right track when it comes to their credit. So as far as improving credit, I know that you've mentioned on-time payments, and we've said duration quite a bit here. But are there any other general tips that you'd like to tell our audience, Brandon, about how to improve your credit?
The first and biggest is payment history. That makes up about 35% of your credit score. So making those on-time payments and continuing to do so is going to help improve your credit the most. Amounts owed is in second there at 30%. So keeping your balances on credit cards and lines of credit, those revolving trade lines, paid down is going to help quite a bit. If you're looking at what they call credit card utilization, and so that's the percentage of your balances used, every percent that you lower that utilization by paying your balances down is going to translate to roughly a 1 point increase in your credit score. So if you can take your utilization from 70% down to 20%, you can expect to see roughly about a 50-point increase in your credit.
Okay, that's good to know. Good to know. But yeah, paying those down, paying on time, all really, really important. We also mentioned keeping old accounts open because I know a portion of that credit score relates to the length of your credit history. And typically those with better credit scores, they've been good with credit and been good for quite some time. And then we mentioned, reviewing your credit reports regularly as well. So that's really all the questions that I had for you, Brandon. Are there any questions that I haven't asked or anything that you wanted to talk about here at the end?
I think just a couple items I'd like to add on there is avoiding excess credit applications or credit inquiries really only apply for credit when you need it, especially in the short term. Those additional inquiries, those new trade lines that you open is going to hurt your score. So if you're working to rebuild it, focus on only taking out new credit when you absolutely need it, and instead work on continuing to pay on time for those debts that you already have out there.
Okay. And if somebody's struggling at all, something happens, a hardship or something happens, is there anything that you recommend that someone does if they're in that situation?
Yeah, reach out to us here at Altra. The folks in our branches are great at helping get you on the right path. We have a wonderful member education team here at Altra that can help with budgeting and helping you to improve your credit.
All right. Really appreciate you taking the time, Brandon. And again, we're speaking with Brandon Hougom. He is AVP of Consumer Lending. So all things credit, awesomeness. Really appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast, Brandon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Tony.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Best Life Podcast, brought to you by Altra Federal Credit Union. We appreciate you taking a moment to learn how you could live your best life. If you have a question or a topic you'd like us to cover, send me an email at tjbuyer@altra.org. And who knows, it may even make it into a future episode. Don't forget to follow the Best Life Podcast pretty much wherever you get your podcasts, or find it on our website at altra.org. Thanks again, be well, and we'll talk to you again soon.